I'm Craig Wellman, and I run our financial services business for Microsoft in the UK. The largest enterprise customers across the sector, and we work across, of course, banking, insurance, capital markets, asset management, payments, just about everything really. So a broad remit across the whole sector.
Hi, I'm Yannis. I'm a principal engineer here at Thought Machine. I've been here since the founding of the company, so I work in a very broad range of areas of our core banking offering, from our smart contracts technology to our accounts and ledger systems. And of course, by virtue of that, I've been here since also our partnership with Microsoft and Azure. Migrating data from system A to system B is theoretically shouldn't be no different. Okay, if you're migrating to the cloud or some different type of architecture or different part of tech stack, there is a playbook there of things to be aware of, things to be careful. Okay, in the thing, migrating data to the cloud doesn't change fundamentally much. Okay, and if the concern is in the context of security of the data and all the cyber concerns that exist, there is, when we are building a system in the cloud, there is again a very detailed playbook of all the different compliance and all the different sort of like specifications that we need to follow to ensure the data integrity and data security. So it's, for me, a question of are you operationally ready to perform large-scale migration, cloud or not? And then at the second level, is your cloud ready anyway to sort of like serve and manage this kind of volume of data and operations?
I think Yannis has covered it very well. I think that there's on three levels for me. I think there's a housekeeping level of the integrity of the project, the partners that you work with, the people involved, who touches the process, and being sure that, as Yannis said, the transition from point A to point B is safe, fully understood, and people are accountable all the way along the line for what's going to happen and when. In all of that, you would expect to have rollback plans and exit points, etc., where you can make sure that the process is on track. That's the first thing. I think the second big risk for me actually is that organizations invest significant time and money in migrating data to the cloud, but they don't use that as an opportunity to reform the way that they think about the data, the way that they transmit the data, the way that they understand the signals from the data that's being produced, and the way that they develop their business, customer experiences, products on the back of it. All too often we see people rushing to lift and shift data into the cloud, but not reimagining processes underneath that are the fundamentals of how you run your business. And then just the last thing I would say is that is the opportunity for me. Transforming anything and moving it to a new platform, hopefully the cloud, is a moment in time. It's a moment to reflect and think about the way you cost that process, the way you run the process, how resilient is the process, what outcomes do you expect from big pools of data, which frankly banks have enormous pools of data, quite disparately spread across their businesses. How do you augment the signals between those data feeds and actually start to think about how they interact together and how it better informs you about how you run your business? And this is one of the great opportunities. We talked about analytics, the way that you bring data pools together from one place to another, cohabit in the cloud, and then start to make better decisions because of the things that you can learn around the correlation that you see in that data. So, of course, any IT project has risk. You can mitigate that risk and you can prepare for better outcomes. But really, for me, the risk is not doing it. The risk is not reimagining process and actually, muddling on with what you've got today and not using it as an opportunity to reimagine the way you actually work as a business. I think the potential and the capabilities, which are so far advanced from the inherent capabilities that banks have built over the last generation, are coming back to something I was saying earlier, focusing in on self-service capabilities are quite transformational. if you start to think about self-service, which is clearly the future, and I'm sure we'll talk about this during the interview, the idea of frictionless banking, of intelligent banking, of automated banking, being focused more around an onus on the individual to collaborate with the bank with the information that's provided and to make decisions and take actions for themselves has become a way forward. And it's certainly the way that we're seeing banking as a model developing. So, kind of democratizing the data and thinking about how you use analytics in the cloud in that environment is going to be a critical part of how you'll develop customer experiences and products and have those recommendations and how you have automation delivered for clients. And then I think if you look around at other industries that have started to embrace transformation and have embraced cloud, the impact of insights, analytics, and data-driven capabilities has been hugely transformational, not necessarily just in financial services, but in other adjacent industries. It lowers cost, it speeds up delivery, it gives a more customizable service in a market that's already quite crowded, and already we're starting to see new entrants coming in, which are resetting the bar there. Particularly if you think about the way people are consuming financial services from a mobile app perspective, challenger banks are really leveraging that, and they're using analytics in the cloud, and they're using the speed of these analytics and the intelligence of them to develop new products, to fundamentally change the way that we interact with banks and the way that we consume these new financial services.
It's in fact the holy grail, so to speak, in this sort of like mobile first financial services delivery is, as Greg said, mobile apps that drive engagement. You produce more data, you leverage the data to improve customer experience, therefore increase engagement further. So there's this virtual circle everyone tries to hit to sort of like, and there are many successful players in the market, and that's why you've seen over the past 5 to 6 years such a big sort of like explosion of different propositions that they are very popular with the customers. Really, it's definitely something that in the world of fintech startups has been very transformational, because it's very much reduced the barrier to entry of many new fintechs, where traditionally, if you were to enter a sector like be a neobank, you would have a lot of upfront capital expenditure. You need to make very big commitments on your infrastructure. Now, if you're a tech-savvy startup, okay, you can have with a pretty standard tech stack, you can build a very good infrastructure that can scale in the future. So in that regard, it has been very beneficial to spawn like a much more competition in the sector. That doesn't mean that it has been completely disruptive for tier ones as well, have greatly benefited in that sense, because they naturally operate at great scale. Those tools were built for scale. The original adopters and developers of them were the likes of Google, Microsoft, Amazon. So by leveraging those technologies, the tier ones, basically they can sort of like implement them, adopt them, and don't worry again for the foreseeable future about questions of scale and expansion.
Yeah, the crystal ball moment. I think, look, it's 8 years away, and it's not an industry that's known for moving at breakneck speed. So I think taking the trends that we can already observe today as consumers of these services, or people involved in the industry and seeing it every day, I think we can make some quite intelligent guesses. I think it will be an acceleration of some of the themes that are already emerging. I don't imagine that any new bank is going to launch and start to open lots and lots of new high street premises. I think we're in reverse on that trend, and actually everything that we do is going to become online via an app. Even telephone services are going to get dialed down. In all of that, I think there is a fabulous opportunity for banks to really embrace automation. And coming back to what we were talking about in terms of partners and data, it's going to be about that. You can only really drive automation and self-service if you have a good, clean set of data that you can make good decisions on. Because let's face it, artificial intelligence or automation is just bad decisions faster if your data is not clean underneath. So that's the first thing. The second thing for me, again, an emerging trend, embedded finance. I think we're going to see, more entrants come into the market and more embedded finance around the day-to-day things we do today, where finance is a peripheral, a parallel layer to the interaction or the transaction. I think the third thing kind of aligns with automation, but we're going to see more building of the intelligence layer, more building of these huge data pools that our financial institutions have on us, our behaviors, when we spend money, what we spend money on. And I think organizations are increasingly going to be using that intelligence layer to help us run our lives, to make better financial decisions, investment and borrowing decisions, and to think harder about how we manage our home P&L and how we actually manage our money. And then I think the last thing is there's a fabulous opportunity for banks to reimagine the way that they're structured today. Cost, regulatory compliance, competition, operational resilience. There are so many points out there where when you look at the really big institutions, and they know this, they recognize it, there is this fabulous opportunity not to become the next challenger bank, but to reimagine the existing model you have and to start to draw a line of transition between the way you work today, which is not unlike the way they worked 10 years ago or 20 years ago, start to draw that line of transition towards more automation, lower cost base, more flexible, probably hybrid working, more of an eye on security and regulatory compliance, and hopefully in all of that, a more sympathetic regulatory structure to support it.
Lots of stuff from Greg to unpack, but one thing that I would build up on in terms of trend extrapolation is the sort of like democratization of wealth management tools. And I think that, in 10 years from now, you will see this even more. You will see even more bespoke experiences in terms of how people manage their money, and you will see lots of technologies and ideas and services that normally would be available to only high net worth individuals to people served in customer channel like a mobile app. So I think this trend is going to continue quite a bit for the next decade. That's going to be the name of the game for the next 10 years. And you will see definitely the way people think about money, think about their wealth, the boundaries between my deposit holdings, my credit lines, my equity holdings, crypto even, they're going to be quite blurred